Oh my goodness. Is that a wheeler? I think it is. What's going on, everyone? Um, Hello, welcome to another episode of Mini Paint and Chill. I realize it's been a very long time since I've done this. So if I'm a little uh behind on what I normally do, it's because I haven't done this in a bit. I'm gonna turn down the music a little bit. Um Sweet. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mini Paint and Chill, where I mini paint and you chill. My name is Wheeler. I am your humble, semi-professional miniature painter that will be taking you along on this journey as I paint Morugar the Barbarian. I brought back my Eldritch Foundry character creator videos. This is the first one that I got. I did my best to clean them up, the print, so hopefully it won't detract from any of it. It definitely looks like I missed a few places, but I made this using Eldritch Foundry. The video is up on my YouTube right now. Speaking of, if you'd like to support me, you can do so by subscribing to my YouTube, subscribing to this channel if you have the financial ability to, purchasing something off my website, wheelersminis.com, or following me on my socials at wheelersminis on pretty much everything. So, yeah, I think that's it. I'm trying to remember, again, I haven't done this in a bit, so I don't remember the whole spiel. But yeah, today we're going to be working on this little guy. Probably get most of him done, I would have to assume. But we'll see what happens in the 2 hours that I will be painting. And then move on from there. I'm super excited. We've kind of worked through pretty much every single character option that we can, at least for classes, using Eldritch Foundry. So we'll see what else we have going on. I am going to start off his body with more of like a purplish tone to have like the underpainting of it all. So we're going to do that. And let's see. Gotta figure out what color I want to use. Do I want to go with like royal purple? Yeah, I think I'm gonna do like a more vibrant green on him anyway. So I think this royal purple is the best way to go. So that's what we're gonna start with. Royal purple by Monumento Hobbies. And then if I run out of things to do on him while I'm waiting for stuff to dry, I do have other things I could work on, but we're going to focus on him fast. That's a size 1. I do not mind that idea. All right. Let's see if... Yeah, okay. So most of it's going to be skin. We're going to start out with this purple tone on him to just kind of get a good underpainting kind of shadow color. It goes really well with green. It's a pretty common thing for orcs. This is a half orc, but it's a pretty common painting style for people to hit purple before they go towards the green of like orc skin. If you're going more fantasy orcs via like World of Warcraft and stuff like that. Obviously, there are other colored orcs. There are more grayly colored orcs, but I'm going to go with more of a green half orc color. So I want to try this method because I've never done it before. My blood runs cold. My memory has just been cold. So I'm going to do my best just to be careful, get a good cover of this purple on the skin. I'm being careful at this stage, but much like I talk about all the time, this is the stage where you don't need to be super careful because it doesn't matter. You're going to probably paint over a lot of it anyway. It always helps starting from the lowest point on a model, though, and then working your way up. So in this case, the skin is definitely going to be the lowest part. Probably take a break about halfway through so I can refill my water. Just take a quick stretch break. Continue working on him. It's not covering perfectly, which honestly is not the worst thing. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, hello, welcome in. Appreciate you checking out my VODs. A lot of what's been coming out recently has been my Silksong playthrough, which I need to upload uh the final videos for that are still on the computer. Ooh. Yeah, I very quickly after the gym last night came in and tried to clean up the model from all its support artifacts. I just wish there were higher grit rotary tool attachments because like 120 just leaves too much of a gross texture. I need someone to get on making those ASAP. Mm, good songs. Just focusing on getting really good coverage right now, I think is the main goal. And it's going all right. It's got feet wraps on, which I'll probably drab brown is. I want the green to be the main hit. So we're gonna go with the cool red on the little loincloth piece he's got, which will be a nice contrast, and we won't highlight it as high. Hello, Bunko. Greetings indeed. Papa's just fucking painting this little orc, this little half orc. Way too late for Orktober, but you know, better late than never. Yeah. I'd be glazing my loincloth if you know what I mean. Um he's purple right now, but he's gonna be green. I'm doing that traditional underpainting of purple for green orcs. Uh yep. And to have some good contrast, I am giving his little loincloth a red. And then we're probably gonna go with like just a regular old brown for his pantaloons. Yeah, the class was Honey's Christmas present to me. And they were like, okay, you can get it now. And I was like, okay. And then I went online and it was like sold out. I was like, well, it is what it is. Oh, is this Kanye? Gross. Sure, we'll get some Chappelle Rowan. Just let me know. If it doesn't work out, it's no sweat. It'll just be one less thing. They always have more than that, so exactly. We'll make it work. Let's see if pants will do. Black brown. Hi, Seppi. Nothing much. Just painting this. As I was telling Bonko, just painting this half orc. Just in time for October in November. It's funny. I'm like the anti Jamie when it comes to streaming. Jamie's like so personable and talks to everyone, and I'm just the person who's like, "Oh, you messaged me like 20 minutes ago and I didn't see it. I hope you're still here. Here's the answer to whatever you were asking me." That is just my PC behind me because I am in a cramped space. And I was offered to move into a bigger space, and I went, but I already drilled all my stuff into the walls here. Why would I want to move there? But yes, that's my computation device that I built. Because when COVID hit, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Oh, I know. I'll get crippling anxiety and I'll also build myself a computer. And you know what? Manifestation is true, folks. Yeah, hyperfixation, number 73, I think, if I counted correctly. It doesn't, which means it just goes straight in and it doesn't come out. But luckily, you can take the corks out of both sides. Maybe. You can take the corks out of both sides. Come on. You can take the corks out of both sides, as I'm sure you've seen. If I can actually get the corks out of both sides, Jesus, I really stick them in there. So no obstruction. It just goes straight through. It just becomes a weird cylinder. I love painting things that no one will see. That's my favorite thing to do. Thank you for stopping in. I appreciate you having me on in the background. It means the world to me. True. Honestly, it's just basically like an expander if you think about it like that. So, say Geronimo. Yeah, something that like memory foam like just formed to your hands. I would love that. It would be so cool. The thing that I really want that I talked about when the stream first started was I really want high grit rotary tool extensions that you can use for like sanding 3D prints because the ones that you get are just they're always such a like a low grit and they leave so much texture on the model when you're trying to clean it and that's not what I want. In fact, I want the opposite of that. I'm sorry, Katrina in the waves. I don't want to walk on sunshine. You read the sign, you bring a couple of friends. I bring the good wine and then. Oh, hell yeah, please. Because I have like the Fantic tool that I use for that and for some drilling, but like I just need higher grit sandpaper. That's like higher grit tools. Because like I have high grit sandpaper and stuff like that. It just doesn't reach in certain areas. Goddamn. What do you love now? What do you love now? Hey, 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 hey. You wanna talk about it? Come on, Saturday night. It's one time join on the east side. Mystery, the way the week is now. Gonna start everything with all the leather with this black brown, and then if I want to change the tone of it as I'm highlighting, I'll do so. But I think it's just gonna be easiest to do this. Oh, sweet. Okay. Well, thank you for stopping by. I love talking to you. You know that. Have fun with the partner playing the video games. Honey's at work right now. That's why I'm streaming. I've been and I'll probably only go for a couple hours. So it's a little bit lighter than before. Dunka. Hopefully he turns out well. We'll see. I've been spending more time on models recently and they look better. Crazy how that works. No, you can't hurry, love. No, you just have to wait. Love don't come easy. It's a game of give and take. No, you just have to wait. You said love don't come easy. It's a game of give and take. Sure, I'm getting all of these thingies, knuckles, and pieces of hand showing. No, you just have to wait. You said love don't. It's a game of give and take. No, you just have to wait. You said love will come easy. It's a game of give and take. No, you just have to wait. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff that's the same on this. Oh well, who cares? It's just a character. Well, I mean, the person who might buy this might care, but I'm painting it, so. Guess we'll do one round. Ah, come on. Quickly became one of my favorite play colors to use. I haven't used it as much recently because I've been focusing on using different paint brands. One of the only bad parts about living in a very dry state is that paint dries very quickly, which can be good in certain applications, but when you're trying to keep your paint wet on a wet palette and it's just drying the top of it so quickly because it's just so dry, it can kind of become annoying. I have to assume that's actually one of the main reasons why I've never really learned how to thin paints properly, is because living in this dry ass state, the more water you use, less opaque something comes, and you can thin too quickly. We'll learn at some point. Although this will be mitigated because I do plan on getting a decent humidifier for down here, um, which should help the reptiles that are down in the basement and me. Getting there. We're almost done with the base coat. Good, good, so I'm told. I just know. I'm going to use warm brown on the little fur pieces around the edge of the gauntlets he's wearing as well. Just as a start, it'll probably go up to a pretty bright, kind of desaturated brown tone, just because fur doesn't tend to keep its color once it's off of an alive thing. As it gets kind of sun bleached, especially when it comes to like armor pieces and stuff like that. So start these off with warm brown as well, because I think they're going to be like metal pieces that kind of are surrounding this large piece of stone. If I start them with this warm brown, if I just go over it lightly with like a dry brushing of iron or silver or whatever, it'll look kind of rusted. What if I really like CeeLo Green today? No, definitely not. Station. And Pop found out, he began to shout. He was against the law. He was against the law. What your mama saw. He was against the law. Ground. My way. I don't know where I'm going. I'm on my way. And I don't know where. You got a rose, the queen of Corona. I'm starting off the stone with a mix of gray green and black green. Gonna get this middle green tone. Because I'm just trying new stuff on this. Stuff I've never done before. I don't know where I'm going. I'm on my way. Taking my time, but I don't know where. We're out of rose, the queen of Corona. And me and Julio down by the schoolyard. Me and Julio down by the schoolyard. Julio down by the schoolyard. And for the metal bits, just to start them off, we're going to do dark silver. My least favorite stage of painting because it looks meh. But you got to get through this to get to the fun parts. Best not to hit anything that I've already hit with other color. Also, any color like this, like a dark silver or gunmetal, is a great starting point for anything that's like iron or steel, because it's really dark and it looks really cool. And it gives you just a good base tone for any metallic that you're going for more of a natural metal look. Spikes are gonna have metal on them. I think this silver for now. If I change my mind on it, then I will do that later. Right now, I'm just focused on getting color on everything as best I can. These. All right. Let's start working up his skin tone. Oh, goodness. Deep greens. Deep greens. So we're gonna start out in that family for the skin tone, like the true skin tone. And we're gonna start out with blighted green because it's the deepest. Um, we're gonna do really thin coats of this, so I can move up in a fashion that doesn't diminish the underpainting that we went with. So realistically, yeah, something like that. We're just gonna start going over everything. And really what I'm going to be leaving open without touching, like the purple, is anything that is facing completely downwards. I'm going to leave that purple there so it still shines through as the shadow tone. And really, you could do this with any colors. Part of one of the classes that I took when I was at Nova was talking about the underpainting of things and how leaving interesting colors on a model can help kind of define a color scheme and just overall kind of help bring the model together. And again, you'll see this, like if it's not fully facing down, it will still get this green on it. But even now, as I'm doing this, there's still some of that kind of purple shining through. And it's just adding a really nice depth of color because it's contrasting as a reddish blue to the green. You can even see it on my thumb here. There's the places where the purple was on my thumb, the green is a little bit more deep versus where it's just the green. If you can see my thumb, I don't know if you can see it very well or not. But comparatively to the green, it's just kind of greenish toned, which I mean, I guess makes sense. But having that just kind of extra layer of depth there from that underpainting really helps kind of bring life to the model. I've started to notice over the past few months of painting. I realized you don't need to start paint jobs with like the lowest color of a color family and then just work your way up that. You can start it outside of that color family. Especially for like skin tones and things like that. You want to start with like warmer tones. And even here, like some of these things obviously are facing down, but I'm still adding green to them. It's just it helps when you're painting something that has like very hard to reach places. You can paint, you can underpaint, and that will help you keep your shadows a color Thanks, bare naked ladies. That's the other thing too, is it doesn't have to just be things that are facing down fully. If there is a very, very well shaded area that you're like, I don't want to paint that in the color that I'm using as my color, you can leave that and then that's your shadow color. And again, because you have left those colors available, it creates a more visually interesting model overall. And this works best with like thinner coats of paint. So if you're used to using thicker coats, you might have a little bit of an issue with this, but overall you should be fine. And if you want to start getting better at thinner coats, you can use this technique to kind of practice that. And the best way to tell is that you can still kind of see that under color peeking through a little bit, which adversely, this will also give you a really good practice into glazing, because glazing is really just really thin coats of paint over and over again to achieve kind of a tinting of something, or to help smooth out gradients between two colors. But even now, with just these kind of two layers of paint on, this purple and this green, there's already kind of like a richness to the model that I wouldn't have gotten if I just had the green there. So because obviously I still want this to come across as a green model. I just want that purple to be there as kind of like a shadow color, almost as if like there are certain areas where when this green is under, kind of like how humans are, we often think of ourselves as like, and think of skin as being this, opaque layer on us, when in reality it is a very translucent layer. um Case in point, when you stick your fingers up kind of like this and you look through light, you can kind of, I don't know if you can't really see it here, but you can, when you have light passing through, you can kind of see the light through your skin. That's what I mean by that. It's like, you know, maybe in this world orcs have, purplish blood. And as the light's passing through it and refracts off of it, like it's giving off green. But in the shadow spaces where the light's kind of passing through without reflecting, it has more of that purple tone to it. And you don't always need to have like a real world explanation for something. Sometimes you can just go, I think this looks cool and that's how I'm going to paint it. And you know what? More power to you. One of the things I think has been a travesty of recent years is specifically skin tones. A lot of people in the mini painting community paint busts of women, and almost, I would say, 90% of them are all white skin tone. And I understand if that's something you're comfortable with painting, but like we should be painting other skin tones. Some of my favorite paint jobs for alternate skin tones have been from people who have inspired me from my real life. My wife's girlfriend, for instance, has been a big inspiration because her skin is like very vibrant, um, and a darker skin tone than mine or my wife's. And I just think that looks really good. And I painted a couple models with that skin tone, and sure enough, it looks phenomenal. So any chance I can get to try out new types of skin recipes, I will take. This one's been around for a long time though, and unironically, uh, purple's actually a really good skin tone to start out for people who have darker skin tones, like blacker skin tones. Because it brings that warmth to the skin that we get usually when we add like browns or reds or pinks to like human skin tones. I like girls who do trucks. So I'm just going over some of these areas that I think might need a little bit more of that green to kind of just bring it up. Although I wouldn't be worried about it too much at this stage because we're going to be moving way up in the green family to get this skin tone up. So, but I actually should start taking intermediate pictures throughout so y'all can see. In the back of the glove. So I'll take a picture of that. Power mode. And realistically, you could just take this deep green tone that you have and really just add like whatever color you wanted to highlight. You could do like a bluish tone if you're doing like moonlights or something like that. You could do ivory if you're going more for, or a yellow for more of like a sunny tone to it. It's really up to you. That's the beauty of painting, is like it's an art form in which you can express yourself in any which way you want. I like the girls who do drugs, girls with cigarettes in the back of the club. All right, and then the red will only go up one more because again, I don't want to detract from the green skin tone that I'm doing. So Wyvern Fury. I love the Army Painter Cool Reds. They are actually one of my favorite colors to use. That and Black Red by Monument Hobbies. Another one that is similar in tone is like Evil Red from Vallejo. And I haven't really found one that fits really well with from AK, except maybe Burnt Red. But Burnt Red's more of like a brownish red. But I just really like these colors. They're the cool reds, and they layer really nicely with their warm reds, which I also like using. But we're just going to get just a little bit of highlight on these. Not a lot. Just to show off that these are also interacting with the world around. That's the thing. The contrast that you can get is not only in the colors that you use, but can also be in the lighting that you use and how you highlight pieces on the model versus how you highlight other pieces. So for instance, the skin is the main is the focal point that I want to focus on. So that is going to get the most amount of highlights. However, again, these things are still in this world. If you were to paint and be like, well, I'm painting these things, but these aren't highlighted, these pieces aren't highlighted, then it would look off. Because everything reflects light. So the only thing I might change that on is the leather, but the leather is not going to go all the way up everywhere. It's going to have scratches on it, which means that there's going to be pieces of it that catch the light a little bit more. Same thing with metal. Even if you don't want metal to be the focal point, if you want to add visual interest, you'll add small little dings and scratches of a lighter color. And that'll get you kind of visually interesting while also showing you that there is light in the world that's interacting with certain things. So for this, I started out with the black brown on the leather, and then I just kind of worked my way up the brown family in the army painter from there, using brigadine brown first, and then bootstrap, and then leather brown usually last. But in this case, I'm going to use leather brown as my scratches and weathering color. While also leaving some of those darker spots in there for where the pants themselves kind of have natural shadows to them. Because the reality is, we as painters, when we want to paint something specific, most people will make that specific thing that they want to paint. But for us who don't have sculpting ability, we paint what's given to us. And that teaches you how to kind of listen to the model as it's being painted, as like, okay, well, how does this need to be painted in a way that makes sense? I talk about it a lot where I say, hey, let the model talk to you as you're painting it, to better understand how it wants to be painted, which sounds really weird, but there are times where you go in with this idea of what you want the paint job to look like, and the reality of the situation is it's not going to look like that. So having the ability to kind of pivot in the middle of a paint job is also very important. And honestly, that's one of those things when I was like, well, I don't know if I want to paint everything in the same leather. Well, actually, that's a good idea. Because if I paint everything in the same leather, then it will draw focus away from it and have you focus on the thing that I actually want you to focus on, which is the skin and the body. And then that's also where, as you're looking at something, another aspect of contrast can come in, which is specifically contrast in the way that you paint something. So when you're trying to think about it in the realm of when you're making a pie chart, or you're making something that is a visual representation of one thing with many things on it. When we're kids, like, obviously you think about it with like, oh, well, I'll scratch in lighter for this thing and then darker for this thing. Or for me, it was, okay, well, I'll do lines up and down like this for this one, and then lines side to side for this one. And then if I have another one, I'll leave it blank. But if I need another one, I'll do, diagonal lines. And that's kind of where the contrast of brushes can come in, where it's literally taking the tool that you're using and just moving it in a different way to create visual contrast on something. So for instance, there's little kind of there's like diamond shaped pieces on the greave that he's wearing that I will go along to highlight them. But then with the little pieces of leather that are kind of strapping it to his arm, I'll go along those. But because of the way that they're shaped, I get a perpendicular highlight where I get the belt like this and the diamonds like this. And then you can also pull in other versions of contrast in it as well. So I probably won't go too much higher, or maybe I will. I'll do one more highlight on the little diamonds, but then I'll go an additional highlight on the leather straps that hold it, so that way you can differentiate between the two things. Because oftentimes we're going to be painting things that have the same color. And the way that we differentiate those things is usually by creating a hard line between the two, or in just painting in general, we change the color of them. But in the case where they're all the same color, that becomes a little difficult. So in order to have contrast between those things to show that they're different pieces, even if they're made of the same material, we may highlight them a little more, we might highlight them a little less. We can change the way our brush moves. It's maddening sometimes thinking about all the possibilities you can have when you're painting, but it's a lot of fun if your brain works like that. And much like anything, it just takes practice. Like, I was not always a painter like this. In fact, not too long ago, I was just painting where I was literally taking the primer that I used on it, putting a little bit of like a zenithal prime, dry brushing a little white on, and then hitting it with speed paint and then painting it up from there. And that is also a way to paint. You know, there are people who live by a slap chop method, and they make really good art. And it's not necessarily less than anyone else's. It is the way that they do art, and that's fine. I just like the way that this looks, and it gives me practice with the brush more in creating my own shadows and things like that. And that's also a thing that you can do, is you're working a muscle. So allowing yourself to work in different ways helps with that. I'm still free. Take a chance on me. Take a chance on me. All right, and then I'm going to take some of this green gray and just start working this in here. And we're going to go more gray with this stone, but I wanted to have more of a greenish undertone to it to kind of tie in with the colors across the model. So similar idea, any place that's facing straight down is just going to stay that kind of mix of the gray green and the green to create a good contrast, but everywhere else is just going to get a nice coat of this. And then as we move up, we'll add just a regular cool gray to it to get more of that kind of stony look. that I forgot to use on the love is strong enough. The benefit of things like this that are wraps for weapons is that most of the time when you're creating a character like this, the separation between the pieces of leather is pretty prominent. And what you can do there is you can either hit it up with a wash to catch all those pieces that are lower to allow there to be texture to it, or you can just be careful with the brush and highlight it around that to kind of help accentuate it, which is what I'm going to do. And you'll see as I move up in tone, it'll maintain some of that texture, but it won't be, you know, all painted one color. If that makes sense. Go back to this green real quick because I think that this leg is still a little too purple, especially in this high point. That's the beauty of painting as well. You can always go back over something that you see later on that you're like, I don't like the way that looks. Again, you don't want there to be too much purple showing through. You want there to be just enough to where it has a nice kind of like shadow, but not so much to where it overtakes what the skin should be. Not the Veronicas. My wife doing this. Yeah, we're getting a nice greenish tone to that. I'm not going to worry about the metal just yet because I want to keep that a little lower. But I'm going to take some some dark ivory and start to kind of get the feet wrap color up a little bit. I'm actually going to mix it with that warm brown so it's not too high of a jump. Just got to remember where that warm brown is. It's right there. Because sometimes a heavy jump from a darker tone to a lighter tone can sometimes draw the eye a little too much. So what we're doing here is just taking this and kind of working it in slowly, methodically, and just kind of sticking it in some areas to kind of help accentuate the natural texture of this stuff. And again, places that are the deepest, or in this case, for feet wraps like this, the dirtiest, we're just going to leave that warm brown tone. And that should give us a good idea of the texture that we're wanting from this. Every time I hear this song, not because it was a part of this show, but every time I hear this song specifically, I think of that one Cartoon Network show, Destroy, Build, Destroy, because Andrew WK was the host of it. When it's time to party, we will always party hard. I said that to my wife the other day, and they went, huh? And I was like, oh, God. Half of my jokes don't land because people don't know what I'm saying. I forget what I said the other day. Sometimes I say stuff and it's like really hyper specific to me. And people are like, oh, haha, I didn't really get it, but I get it now. And I'm just like, don't pity me, please. Please don't pity me. Mm, oh, love Prince. Don't have to be beautiful. Every time I hear this song, I think about my wife, and I think about that scene in New Girl where Jess and Nick meet Prince and they freak out. Don't have to be rich, be my girl. You don't have to be cool to rule my world. Ain't no particular sign I'm compatible with. Um, we'll see how far we get with this guy. We still got about 40 minutes left on stream. If I don't finish him today, I may finish him off stream or I'll finish him on Thursday. Um, we'll just have to see what ends up going because I do have other projects I'm working on right now, but I wanted to get this one worked on as I made the video last week. And he printed out really well, and I'm actually really happy with how well my Eldritch Foundry minis have been printing recently. High quality STLs for sure. And speaking of, Eldritch Foundry is a friend of the show, and they are currently having a event in November that is for a decent fee, but honestly, it's pretty good in the long run, seeing that it's like basically you pay for what is basically 4 years of Eldritch Unlimited at once. So it's a $500 charge, but you have lifetime access to all of Eldritch Foundry's Unlimited. No hidden fees later on, no nothing. It's just a lifetime subscription to it. If I had that money, I would be doing it because I use Eldritch Foundry a lot now. But if it's something you got the money for and you're interested in, be sure to check them out. You can also check out all the stuff they have on their website, eldritchfoundry.com. My affiliate link should be in the chat. If you do that, it doesn't cost you anything extra. It just kind of pushes a little money my way. Let the people in power know that I'm doing my best. But if you need a custom character built, try out Eldritch Foundry. I promise you'll enjoy it. I like the assets that they have. They're very detailed. I've converted some of my players over to it. I'm not compatible with. I just want your extra time and your kiss. All right, so there's the wraps. Which again, we won't go up too much. I think we'll probably just go up to dark ivory on those. Because again, we want to really draw focus towards the skin. So. Wheeler story time for a second as I take just a quick little stretch break. I'd known about Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons from a class I took in high school, I think. I can't remember. I just knew about them, and I knew about their kind of story. And then when I was 14 or 15, my grandmother took me to our local theater and I saw Jersey Boys. And the scene that this song is in was just a bunch of women in lingerie and the guy playing Frankie Valli singing. And that was a wild time for me. 14, 15-year-old me didn't know how to deal with that. Did it shape who I am today? Who's to say? Yeah. All right. So the wraps are done. We just need to work on bringing the skin tone up. Well, the wraps are done for now. Everything is at least highlighted up once, except the fur tone, which I actually will also just use this. Got a funny feeling when she walks. I think about my history sometimes as a person, like the things I've gone through. I think about how strange it is. You ever just do that? Just kind of sit back and think about your life. Think about all the things you've gone through, all the things you did when you were younger. Every once in a while, I do that. Like how I did a report in like 8th grade on the history of photography and how like the first images ever photographed were in like the 1860s for the Civil War. And thinking about how photojournalists who go off and picture things of war and stuff like that are actually just paying homage to the earliest representation of their craft. Or when we had to build castles for a project, and my dad helped me a little bit. I did a lot of the work, but he definitely helped me out. Made a working drawbridge. Here I am, time to deliver. Oh yeah. All right, next up we've got On Hill Green, Angel Green. Divided Green got added in the John Blanche sets. I like all of the additions that came from the John Blanche sets. I think adding another, whoops, that wasn't supposed to happen. Adding another level of some of the colors that I use the most actually made me really happy. Surprise. I know some people are like, man, but I kind of like them. All right, now we're working our way up the green. So again, we're just gonna try and use a thinner a thin down version of the paints, and we're gonna be a little bit more selective about where we place it. You know, whereas everything was facing directly down on the last one for what we weren't going to paint, now it's going to be like, you know, most of it's going to get painted, but things that might be in heavy shadow aren't going to get the same amount of love with this color as others. And you know, painting in a way, is a lot like life. It's, like a highway. But we're just going to kind of focus on getting color on there. We don't want too much paint on the brush because that's how we can kind of start to build up texture, and that's not what we want. We really do want this to be kind of thinned down. But as I was saying, places that are a little bit more heavily shaded aren't going to get this color as much. They're going to kind of stay in that green, that deep green. But we still want this color just kind of to start bringing up the tone of that green to really show off its greenness. And hopefully this is on camera because I'm so bad about painting and paying attention. Got to work on getting a better setup for this. You're going my way. I wanna ride it all night. But yeah, we're just again focusing on getting this green color a little further up. Still maintaining again a lot of the deeper tones. And another thing that I learned along painting as I was coming up and painting more is that uh, muscles are not an island. They, like what I said earlier, skin is a large organ and it's all interconnected and it diffuses light very well. That is how it gives us that UV protection. It is a barrier against our internal organs. Um, so when you're highlighting it, you don't want to just highlight it in a way that it's like, spot highlighting of the best term is islands. You want to connect it in some way. So like abs aren't going to be just islands of highlights. They're going to be, highlights that are connected to a main highlight on the chest via kind of like the space between them. So just things to think about when you're painting, as if you're not thinking about enough, but we're just starting to define those shapes a little bit more and have the green kind of come out a little bit more. And the purple is still there, it's still present. Exactly. Also, yeah, that's how it be. Literally, I start cleaning and I'm like, I guess it's time to clean everything. There's no place. But yeah, things are not islands. They are one giant organ that diffuses light. And yes, there are going to be some spaces that have a little bit more shadow than others. But overall, you just want to make sure that they're connected. I hate to look into those eyes and see an ounce of pain. It reminds me of a warm, safe place where as a child I cried. Rain the thunder and the rain. They child of mine. Oh, sweet love of mine. Da, 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 da. Oh, sweet child of mine. Oh, 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 sweet love of mine. Oh, dun, 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 dun. All right, we're working our way up the green, so now we're gonna keep doing that. Also start working our way up the other colors to highlight them a little bit more. Honestly, this green skin's looking better than most that I paint, so doing pretty well. And we got about 24-ish minutes left, so we're making good time. I'm still gonna hold off on the metal bits for now. Yeah, we'll keep right on right on. All right, so next up is going to be Bootstrap Brown. I'm going to go light application on the pants themselves because I don't want it to overpower. I just want it to be kind of like a minor highlight, and it's going kind of well. So, oh no, chat, why did you pause? That's probably as far as the pants are going to go up. Don't really need a lot. I really want them to stay darker to contrast what is going to be a little bit of a brighter green skin. So, and again, this is where some of that, what I was talking about earlier with the contrast and the brush strokes can come in, because as it's kind of scratchy and basic on the pants, we can do kind of like one continuous line for the belt and other pieces. And it'll help differentiate between the two. Because even though the pants are highlighted with the same color, the belt looks like it's different because it's got more of that color on it. So. Do the same thing here with these kind of back straps. And again, if I don't finish this today, I may work on it on Thursday. I may work on it off stream. It will get finished. I always finish these no matter what. But where it gets finished will be dependent. Because I also need to work on my D&D party's updated minis because they reached level 10 and I had a new implement that I put in recently that was when we reach level 10 we will get updated minis. So we're doing that. And let me tell you, boy howdy have I gotten a little bit better at mini painting because I look at the first ones I did compared to these and I'm like, woof, brother. I was not bad, but I'm definitely better now. All right, we've got the leather up, so that. All right. Moved up the leather. Bam, 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 bam. Now add a little bit of, actually, I think brigade. Brigade. Oh no, I want ash. So I'm going to take some ash gray, and then I'm going to mix that with that gray green. And that's how we're going to continue kind of moving up the stone. And if I don't like this tone, which I don't know how I feel about it right now, I can always come back over it and change it up. It is drawing the eye kind of up though, which is good, so maybe I will keep it like that. Beauty of this stuff too is if you go a little bit too heavy on it, you can always go back over it with the original color to kind of bring it back down. Or even still, if you want to do something a little bit more fancy, if you want to give it more of a smooth texture to the look of it, you can take the original color and actually just glaze it over everything. And it should bring it not only back down, but also should kind of cover up any inconsistencies in the color. This is our next color for this as well, because I decided we got there we go. Where you from? You sexy thing. I believe in miracles. From you sex the blame. Just make sure that what I was talking about earlier, if you glaze over with that original color, you kind of have to come back and put highlights back in because it will kind of get rid of any of the highlights you created. So it's a little bit extra work, but it does end up looking nicer in the long run. One of the main lessons I've been learning over the past few months of painting is that if you want something to look good and you aren't, a god when it comes to painting quick, it will have to take a little bit of time. So being patient is key. Miracles, where you from? You sex a bang. I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sex a bang. Also, I think I did figure out what model I'm going to be painting. If you follow me on Instagram, you will know that recently I put out a story that was kind of after I saw the new Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro. I love his color palette that he uses in all of his movies. I think it's just really pretty. Um, Pacific Rim, Pan's Labyrinth, um, Frankenstein. I want to see his new Pinocchio. I was considering doing the most recent Spira sculpt when I get mine in that kind of style, but I really want to paint that a little bit more intentionally when I get it. But I have a beholder that I really think fits in the style of like Hellboy. And when I asked Honey what color I should paint it, they were like, you should do teal. And I was like, huh. And I was painting it and I was like, I'm going to do teal. And I'm going to do teal with like a mix of like, it's going to have its main eye just be like that vibrant kind of slightly desaturated red. And then it's going to have like warm browns in it and like purples and stuff like that. It's going to look so good. But I'm really excited about that. Oh, baby, baby, it's a wild one. I know it's Wild World, but I don't care. Honestly, we got pretty far on him just today. I mean, he's not like the hardest thing to paint, so it's not like you know, I'm not acting like it's a feat that it happened, but it does look pretty good. Ooh, baby, baby, it's a wild one. Sorry, I'm just kind of cleaning this up a little bit because there's some spots that it just looks a little off. Just trying to fix it a little bit. Oh, baby, The beauty of it though is like sometimes messy painting's good because you know these are feet wraps. These are gonna get gross. They don't have to be perfectly painted. Um, Same thing with the stone. Like I like the texture that's on it right now. I just the color. I just don't know how I feel about it. But again, it's kind of drawing the eye up, which is good because again, I want the face to kind of be the focal point. I want this area to be focal, but I want this to still tell a story. Obviously, having like the red there being in contrast with the green. Um, and then these are almost kind of grayish when you look at them, but they're actually a mix of warm brown and dark ivory. They just kind of meld in with the rest of the body and stuff. So, yeah, we're at 4 minutes. Oh, goodness. And that's the fun thing is like as you paint, the layers get faster and faster because you're painting less and less. I also have two other copies of this. I always print out more than one, just in case something fails. But I have these other ones. This is just the one I wanted to do because it was detached from the base, and I'm kind of getting more into basing and stuff like that. So that is on my reasoning why. Next up is Guardian Green. We're going to start working even smaller with this green for the last couple minutes. Pro tip, toothpicks, Jesus, paper clips are great for sticking in the holes of your paints to get them unclogged. We're looking for a paint consistency that doesn't necessarily like come all the way up, but it's like it leaves a nice thick kind of wet and absorbs into, at least for me, it absorbs into the towel a little bit better because that's pretty thin to where in certain cases like you can kind of see through. Kind of hard to see, but like that you can see that black dot, but it's just kind of green tinged. That's the color or the thinness that I want when I'm painting. All right, and we're just gonna keep kind of moving our way up. Again, just being more and more selective on where we place the color to kind of start to show off those highlights a little bit more. So similar to before, anything that isn't really in direct contact with our light source, which in this case is probably just going to be like the sun, we're not going to paint with this color. We're going to get stuff like the nose, the cheekbones. This is when we're going to start getting that contour in to show off kind of like the cheekbones that he's got. Kind of leaving the temples open. And again, we're just starting to focus on areas that are kind of in direct contact with the light source, kind of showing upwards. And it looks really bright right off the rip, but as it dries, it kind of bleeds into that other color. And that is also why we work with a little bit of a thinner paint, because it allows the space the color before to kind of bleed through and shine through a little bit. All right. Just finish up a couple pieces on here. I just want the abs to be a little bit defined, so I'm trying to define those a little bit more, and then I will be done for today. Again, I'm just trying to make sure I get everything that I need to get with this green tone, because we're going to keep moving up. And the issue is you just don't want to slow down or limit how much a color goes onto a space too quickly, because then it'll look kind of off. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now, is just trying to make sure that I have this color in enough places where it doesn't kind of look off. But I think I'm doing a decent job at it. Again, I'm just going to finish up kind of this. I might come back and tweak it a little bit later, but for now, And never gonna slow me down. Oh no, I'm about to keep on moving. I'm never gonna break up my spine. Okay, I think that's gonna be it. Got some really good work done. I'm very happy with the work that I got in today. Um, Again, I might finish this guy on Thursday, but if not, I still will be working on tiny little character models because I will probably be working on my D&D parties models. But yeah, let's just finish up putting these colors on. All right, I'll come back to it later. That's it. I'm done. All right, that's gonna do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you all for coming to hang out. I really appreciate it. If you aren't already following the channel, please do. Follow me on all my socials. I'll be posting a picture of this guy when he's fully painted, so you get to see him in all his glory. But yeah, had a lot of fun today working with some new tones that I don't normally work with. I think he's looking pretty good so far. I'm really excited where he's going to end up. But I hope you guys have a great night. I will talk to you all and see you all later. With that, though, let's see who is live right now that isn't me. So let's see who's in miniatures and models right now that we can raid, if anyone. I want to see which of our friends are up. All right, there's not really anyone live right now doing stuff, so we're just going to end it there. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. I will see you all later. And by that, I mean I'll see you all on Thursday. But until then, go paint some minis, have some fun. I'll see you then. Later.